back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a loaded episode. So from the freshly unveiled NBA Cup groupings, every year for the NBA Cup, they reveal which 5 teams are going to be in which group. There's 3 groups for each conference, and then you have group play and so forth. You then have that tournament. So that was unveiled yesterday, and of course, we've got to talk about it here. We've also got some standout developments at practice, ahead of Summer League. Some of the guys are getting together and getting some early reps in. It's really good to see, and we got a video of 2 key Hawks players for next season getting some work in already. So that was cool to see, and we're going to talk about that more later. And we've also got a big addition to the Summer League roster. This guy in particular was added to the roster earlier today, and this is something that Hawks fans should be excited for. He's an interesting player to watch, and we're going to break down his game here. So there's no shortage of buzz surrounding the team, and that being said, let's go ahead and get into it and start with a major development from the league office. On Wednesday afternoon, the NBA had officially revealed the NBA Cup group stage assignments. It's the 3rd annual NBA in-season tournament, which is now obviously known as the NBA Cup. For the Atlanta Hawks, the draw was kind, if we really compare it to last year. So Atlanta is going to land in East Group A. They're going to be alongside the Cleveland Cavaliers, last year's 1 seed, and then the Indiana Pacers, who are going to be without Tyrese Halliburton for all of next season, the Toronto Raptors, and the Washington Wizards. So definitely more favorable than last year. I mean, if you remember that group last year, while the differences aren't striking, they did have the Boston Celtics instead of one of the teams that is more on the poor side going into next season. Boston was the reigning champs, and the Hawks had to go through them, but they still played well. They had Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, and Washington. So definitely a step up if we're really looking at this year now. It was an uphill road. Despite that, though, Atlanta made it out of group play, showing grit and cohesion early in that season. This year's draw is objectively more favorable. However, it's not going to be super easy, but definitely more favorable. The Hawks, when they were healthy, they made it far into the NBA Cup. They got to that semifinal game, and they really showed that they belonged with the higher seeds in the Eastern Conference. At the time, they were the 5 seed, and everyone was healthy, and they were playing good basketball. It gave fans a little bit of confidence going into the end of the season, and really boosted their expectations for this group when healthy. Unfortunately, though, soon after the NBA Cup is when Jalen Johnson ended up getting hurt, and kind of derailed the season a little bit, and so then the Hawks ended up in the play-in tournament. However, things could be different this upcoming season, and hopefully the Hawks are back on that same stage in the NBA Cup. Let's break it down, though. So the groupings are formed by tiered selection based on last season's standings. Each group is going to feature 5 teams with roughly similar seed level counterparts. The Hawks did catch a nice break, like I said earlier, when they were paired with the Indiana Pacers as their seed matchup, especially with the news that star guard Tyrese Halliburton is expected to miss all of next season. So that's definitely a big development, and the Pacers are going to be weaker next season. I don't think they'll be as bad as some people are saying, but this is a team who is missing their leader, their star. They still have Pascal Siakam and TJ McConnell and a great team around them. However, they should take a step back, but it'll still be something that Atlanta cannot take lightly. While Cleveland still poses a serious threat, I don't know if they'll be the 1 seed again next season. They might just naturally take a little bit of a step back. I feel like they got a little bit worse this offseason, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Atlanta's offseason moves, especially those that added length and versatility, which is really all the moves we've made in free agency so far, it should help them match up better this time around, even though they still look good against Cleveland last year. Toronto is a team that's kind of, iffy. I'm not exactly sure how much of a threat Toronto will be. They do look pretty decent on paper. They've got Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett. But this is a team that still hasn't really given fans much reason to believe they'll be decent and a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. Washington, as we all know, they're one of the youngest rosters in the NBA still. I mean, this is a team that definitely shouldn't be any sort of threat next season, but they've got a good young core and they're promising for the future. And they brought in some key vets this offseason. I mean, they retained Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton, but then they brought in CJ McCollum. So, those vets all being on one team could make it so, they have a little more experience than some of these teams while also having all of these young guys guys to develop. So they could be a sneaky team, but as we're looking at it right now, they're definitely one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, and it's good that Atlanta got placed in a group with them. Group play is scheduled to kick off, to tip off on October 31st on Halloween. It's just a handful of games until the regular season because the season starts like 10 days before. So that's definitely something that's going to be an exciting thing to watch as soon as the NBA season begins. Atlanta should be well positioned to build early momentum and potentially secure another trip to Las Vegas for the knockout rounds, something that will be very exciting for Hawks fans to follow. So now we're going to move on and talk about, if you have been keeping up with the Hawks social media, which I'm sure you all do, you may have caught a recent video that quietly sent a loud message. So there was a clip, it was probably like 2 minutes long, of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Atlanta's new pickup that they literally just made the signing official a couple days ago, and Vit Krejci. The two of them were running offensive sets in the practice facility. This video is gaining traction just because of how cohesive the two look together. For good reason. People are talking about it. So both players are expected to be vital contributors off the bench this season. A lot of people are underrating how impactful Vit is going to be next season, but I still think the Hawks believe in him and want him to be a part of the rotation moving forward. They like him at that backup wing, and pairing him and Nickeil Alexander-Walker in that second unit could be deadly because their games really complement each other. NAW, of course, arrived in that sign and trade earlier in the offseason, and Krejci, over the course of his time in Atlanta, has steadily carved out a role and proved himself, and he's going to continue to prove himself. It's early, but the chemistry between these two is clearly there. They looked fluid in their reads. I mean, they kind of, they understood each other's games, really, and it was a fun video to watch. It feels like their games are tailor-made for Quinn Snyder's offensive first system. Let's talk about some of the strengths that duo could provide. So, like I said, their games kind of complement each other. Alexander Walker brings dynamic scoring. He's better off the dribble and getting a bucket. He's got excellent defensive instincts at the guard position. He's better at guarding smaller players, while Vit might excel more guarding bigger players like forwards. He does a great job when he's playing guys like Jason Tatum or these lengthier wings. Nickeil is a above-average three-point shooter. Krejci, meanwhile, is a long, crafty wing who can facilitate and, like I said, defend multiple positions. Both of them can shoot really well, but Krejci's facilitating mixed with Nickeil's scoring and defensive prowess as a guard, it's going to mesh well together, very well. And I think that these two are going to get a lot of minutes together moving forward. I mean, this duo might fly under the radar for now, but don't be surprised if they become one of the more impactful second unit pairings in the East, just given the team surrounding them and their roles that they could potentially play. So now we're going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis, the new Atlanta Hawks big, the marquee offensive, the offseason acquisition. He's officially in town, like we've talked about, and he's already been making the rounds. He's had several public appearances and has been talking to the media any chance that he can. One of his more kind of revealing appearances came in an in-house interview for the Hawks YouTube channel. That actually released yesterday. And, he opened up about his mindset and some of his goals heading into the 2025-2026 season. And let's just say it was very encouraging with some of the things that he said. So let's highlight some of the key takeaways. The first thing that he really emphasized was leadership. Porzingis made it clear he's here to help shape a winning culture. Obviously coming from Boston, winning a championship, and he's entering like double-digit seasons now in the NBA. He knows a lot, and he can mentor some of these young bigs. Like we've got Asa Newell now, and then obviously you pair that with Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu. He's going to be someone who's going to be good to have in the locker room, bringing a real winning identity to Atlanta. He did mention that he's embracing a leadership role on what is otherwise a young and evolving roster. Porzingis and maybe Nickeil and Trey are all going to embrace kind of leadership roles because they are the vets of the team. We've reached that time where Trey is a real vet now, and these two guys that we brought in, also Luke Kennard, all these guys are going to be good, complementing assets to the rest of the young guys, this young team. I mean, Porzingis also spoke about his development as a scorer. So since his early days in New York and, the kind of up and down stint in Dallas, KP has really transformed into a much more efficient player. The improvements in his efficiency have been glaring. I mean, he highlighted some improvements in his post-up decision making and shooting out of the post-up, talking about how just much more efficient that he has gotten specifically at that. And more impressively, his three-point shooting. He's always been a very good three-point shooter, like his whole career. However, last season, he shot over 40% from deep on very good volume. It's an area where the Hawks have really needed consistency in recent years. In this Trae Young era, we have a guy who can get the ball to anyone. We just haven't been surrounding him with good shooters other than 2021. Now we are, and it's going to be fun to watch. But KP shooting 40% the year after he won a championship is definitely just something that really interested Atlanta, and it's why they went so hard for him when he was on the trading block. So it's not just about numbers, though. I mean, Porzingis emphasized how much more comfortable he is reading defenses now and adjusting to different coverages and, serving both as a stretch big and a, kind of a shot creator, really, at his position. He's gotten much more confident with the ball in his hands, and he's kind of an underrated playmaker. He can make the right reads out of post-ups, and, he kind of highlighted that. His evolution in Washington really made him a true offensive weapon. That was where I saw real growth from him as a player. This is something that he kind of displayed more of a confident approach in his Washington days because he had more offensive freedom, I guess, because that team was not good. He was probably the number one scoring option. It was him and Kyle Kuzma, so he definitely was getting a lot of shots up, and he kind of learned more about himself through his time in Washington. And ever since that, it's kind of carried through him over the course of his career. He went from Washington to Boston, and he stuck as that same kind of player in Boston, but he did have less shot volume due to, sharing the court with guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and everyone that Boston had in their championship season. So this should really translate well to the Hawks roster since he already has playmakers and shooters in place. I'm excited to see it. He closed by saying how eager he is to meet the rest of the team and get to work and elevate the franchise in any way that he can, and we're excited about it as well. So now rounding out today's episode, let's talk Summer League, which the Hawks have their first Summer League game tomorrow. They added an intriguing name to their roster in Las Vegas, former first-round pick from the Houston Rockets, Josh Christopher. So the 6'5 shooting guard was selected 24th overall by the Houston Rockets in 2021, and while his NBA career hasn't taken off the way many anticipated, he still has talent. The talent is still there. He just has not panned out in the NBA. But he had a solid rookie season in Houston, but since then it's really just been downhill. He actually spent last season with the Miami Heat organization, but struggled to find any sort of consistency in his shot, or really playing time for that matter. Now he gets another shot, this time maybe in Atlanta. He's going to have a chance to prove himself in Summer League, and this is exactly what Summer League is for. Talented players on the fringes, getting a real chance to prove they belong on an NBA roster. So players play in Summer League with a lot of passion because they know it could be their last chance. And I'm going to be excited to see what Josh Christopher can do with that sort of freedom and kind of this really at stake. The Hawks do have a two-way spot open, like I've been highlighting. So, if a player in Summer League really outperforms the rest and, shows that they can contribute to winning in today's NBA, just watch out for Christopher to be that last two-way guy, depending on how he performs in Summer League. He has explosive scoring ability, excellent body control, and all the tools to become a microwave-type bench scorer. I'm not saying that he's going to become a real rotation piece, but he still has some raw skills and some potential. Hawks are going to tip off Summer League, their Summer League campaign in 2025 tomorrow. And all eyes will be on guys like Christopher and also, Asa Newell. I'm super excited to see him hit the court for the first time. And then returners like Kobe Buffkin, first time healthy since going down with that injury last year. So, like I said, if Josh can string together a few standout performances, it wouldn't really be shocking to see him at least earn a camp invite. So, definitely be on the lookout for that. So, to recap, the NBA Cup draw sets up Atlanta for some real success. Nikal and V are putting in early work that could pay some real dividends moving forward. Porzingis is already showing signs of veteran leadership and highlighting what could be excellent play from him next season. And Josh Christopher, the former first-round pick, enters Summer League with everything to gain. This team is coming together, and the vibes are strong heading into the heart of the offseason. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss a single update here on Hawks Latest, especially with Summer League tipping off tomorrow and more interviews and stuff surely on the way. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. This is our 45th video. We are now over 1,000 subscribers, so just really thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, this has been Hawks Latest, and I'll see you guys then.